just touching the other guy.
You're about 2.75 feet away.
I have nothing clever to come up with on top of that.
Yeah.
I was like really trying to think of something, and I was like, I got nothing. Not often.
Nada.
I'm speechless.
All right, fellas. We're lives.
Okay.
Here we go.
Hey, you got to keep track of the time so we know when to call them, okay? Can you do that for me?
Sure, Dad.
Thanks.
Got it.
Right. Sorry to let everyone in on this secret, but you're my dad. Oh, wait. I mean, I'm your dad. Got that back.
Real weird
So
family
confused.
circle going on here. All right.
You're listening to Thunderheads, a podcast for Thunder fans by Thunder fans.
Welcome to Thunderheads. If you are tuning into YouTube Live, we're psyched to have you. I am Brandon Soul, joined by the Thunder Tie himself. It is Mr. Justin Wright.
You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave.
Something with to do with the United States of America.
Something, yeah?
Really should know this. I feel like I should really know that.
Oh, man, you're a grand old flag.
Oh,
It is
wow.
Flag Day today, June 14th, Flag
That's
Day.
right.
Happy
Haven't heard
Flag
a
Day.
damn single thing about that until
I
just
know.
now. Does anybody? Well, I mean, clearly you clearly you celebrate it.
Yeah. Oh,
That
okay. So it's
amazing
all
t-shirt.
making. This happens far too often, and it. How many times has it gone right over our heads? Probably too. And we
I
haven't
drop a lot
About
of hints.
72% of the time. I'm pretty
or
precise.
76%. It's on the
Hey.
shirt. Woo.
Boom.
That man's the dark and stormy Jason Lewis.
Yes, sir.
Only 3 of us today. No Rob. I think he has Family Matters.
Huh. Like
Like-
Carl?
Did you guys watch Family Matters?
I did. I love that show.
It's a good show. It wasn't great, but it was good.
It's pretty good.
You thought it was great?
I
You would
loved
go
it.
great?
I don't know.
Fresh Prince or Family Matters?
Fresh Prince.
Yeah, easy.
100% of the time.
Easy. I could still watch
No
Fresh
question.
Prince.
I will.
Family Matters? I don't know. Like, if it was on, I might stop. I'd probably change it 5 minutes in.
Yeah, that's probably accurate.
But Fresh Prince, I'm sticking with it.
Oh, man.
Are you reminiscing right
I
now?
just can only think about the saddest episode of TV of all time where his dad leaves again. Whew.
Get you? Still get you, huh?
Every time.
All right, well, today we're going to talk about LeBron's free agency and how it affects everything. You know, the dominoes tend to fall once he makes his decision. The latest on the Paul George front. We're going to call NBA draft expert Chris Stone to get his thoughts on some potential Thunder targets because we haven't really talked draft because there's not much to talk about with the Thunder situation, picks 53 and 57. We'll also talk to Chris Stone about Trae Young, other big names. But first, let us fantasize a little.
Yeah.
It's kind of been picking up some steam, guys. This whole LeBron to OKC thing, right? Not with the national media,
No.
only with Thunder fans. But I get it.
And Stu Gotts.
Right. I get it because not only, of course, everyone wants LeBron on their team. But really, it makes sense. The fit makes sense, right? Am I crazy to say that it actually makes sense? Is it crazy to say that this team with Russell Westbrook, say Paul George comes back, wants to come back, say this team is in LA, say this team is in Miami, say this team is in Chicago, this team would be talked about as a landing spot, right?
Oh, they'd have the best odds in Vegas.
You
at
think
that
so?
point. If it was Russ and Paul George anywhere else but Oklahoma City,
Or not a small market, like
Yeah.
right.
Probably not Sacramento.
I absolutely think that. Hell, even I think even Sacramento that it'd be talked about more than Oklahoma City.
I don't know about that.
It is California though.
That's
Yeah.
And, hey,
but that's hardly-
It's about to be its own state.
That's
man.
like saying
Sort of.
Bakersfield is California. That's more like it just has to be something, and I guess it's California. You know, like it has to be in somewhere. But that's kind of Sacramento. But Sacramento's probably better than Bakersfield. But I think you're right. I think the point is that it is because it's Oklahoma City. LeBron's 33 years old. He's been in the league for 15 years now. Why would he want to go to Oklahoma City and spend the rest of his career, not rest of his career, but why would he want to spend a portion of his career in this place where there's no guarantees? There's no guarantees besides that you'll be a playoff team. You'll be a really good team. I mean, you have LeBron James and you have Russell Westbrook playing off of LeBron James and you have Paul George playing off of LeBron James. And we'll get into how this could potentially happen. But is this a realistic idea? Or is this just us fantasizing because, wow, this really would be cool? Or is this something that could maybe actually happen?
I mean, I guess so. His other options, the main options that are getting talked about, is like he could go to the Celtics, the Rockets. He could go to the Warriors, which would really suck for everyone.
He's not going to the Warriors.
I highly doubt that
and the
would
Lakers have the best
Lakers-
odds in Vegas
Yeah.
because of their situation, cap space wise. They have the ability to create 2 open max slots.
Right.
One of those, of course, is the priority number 1 is going to be LeBron James.
Of course.
And the Thunder don't have any cap space. Most teams don't have any cap space. But when you look at those Vegas odds, the Thunder are way down the list, which is weird.
200 to 1 or something like that.
Yeah. It makes me want to, throw a little something down just in case. But
What's weird to me is like the Clippers are up there, and we're not even in the of all of the ESPN graphics that they keep putting out. Like keep having the Clippers in there at the bottom, and I'm like, what the?
Well, I think that so there seems to be a trend here, right? That they really seem to be valuing location, and almost like where's LeBron going to ride off into the sunset and finish his career? Even though LeBron might have just put together one of the best postseason runs as far as individual performances goes in the history of the NBA, he's not even close to done. It doesn't look like. So maybe he's not close to done as far as thinking about prioritizing winning over everything else. Is that what he's gonna? I mean, he seems to say he's gonna prioritize winning. He does have a family, that's important. He has a kid that's about to go to high school. There's a rumor going around that his kid is enrolling in this LA high school, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Which, and I also think I saw something where that school refuted that very rumor, but there's tons of stuff. I mean, that's even happening about Paul George. People are talking about him pulling his kid out. And it's like, well, that's what they do when they just leave town.
Yeah, they're trying to get the hell out.
Yeah.
It's off season,
summertime.
So if LeBron's kid were to enroll at Oak Hill Academy, would the Washington Wizards be the odds-on favorite for LeBron to go there?
Right?
Just because it's so close, Like the location that you live and spend time and the location that you work in the NBA, in today's NBA in 2018, they don't have to be the same. Russ spends a ton of time out in LA. Paul George spends a ton of time out in LA. They both live there.
Patrick Patterson's in LA right now.
Yeah.
It's LA.
Yeah.
People go. This is the narrative that we've always been fighting, though, in Oklahoma City. It's always been, we're not good enough. There's something wrong with us. There's nothing to do. No one likes it there. We've always been fighting this narrative our entire lives.
Yeah, but the thing is that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because I think that's why you're hearing these reports now that Paul George, that the Thunder have a pretty good shot at keeping Paul George because, of course, he loves LA. He says it himself. He's like, of course I love LA. I'm from LA.
Yeah.
Also, who doesn't really love LA?
Yeah, it's a good time.
Everyone likes to be in LA. They have great weather. It's an awesome place to be. But
things to do.
Your money goes a long ways here. No one can pay Paul George the money that the Thunder can pay Paul George long term. He can take that extra money, give himself a vacation house in LA that he can go to anytime he wants. I'm pretty sure LeBron has a house in LA. If his kid is some top basketball player for his age, maybe he found a good school that he can play basketball at. Maybe his wife wants to. She's like, you know what? I'd rather go out there. Just live there during the year, and you play where you want to play. And maybe where he wants to play is LA. I'm not saying that's not it, but it doesn't necessarily mean he has to go there.
Right, but so what I was kind of getting at with there's the Celtics. As far as teams that already have talent on them, I'm not sure if the money works in any of these places, but I'm sure whoever it would be would figure that part out, right? But I mean, you have the Celtics. They've got Hayward, Kyrie, and then obviously they did really well without any one of those people. And then the Rockets have CP and Harden, which you've talked about how that's kind of like a weird situation for LeBron. Kind of it was already a lot of ball handling on the court at one time, but then when you throw LeBron in there, it's like, well, what do you do? We kind of do you think that kind of situation would be here too with Russ?
No, I don't. There's a weird thing for me. I mean, there would be to a certain extent, but it's two people. It's not three.
Right.
It's not three ball dominant guys.
Yeah, because PG can do what he did last year and playoff ball and
right. And I also think that if there's one, I think there's probably one player in the entire league that could come suit up for Oklahoma City, and Russell Westbrook would instantly be willing to say, you know what, it's your team.
Yeah.
And that's LeBron James.
Agreed.
I mean, how could you not respect LeBron James like that at this point? And I think Russ would. I think he would come in and say, here are the keys, man. What do you need us to do? You know how to win. You've won before. Now, I'm still going to be me. He's not changing. He's going to be me, and I don't think LeBron will want him to change. But thinking about how those guys could play off of each other and how when that first action in offense won't work and the offense won't have to just die.
You got a couple bailouts.
Yeah. You give it to another guy who can make a play out of nothing. The fit there seems incredible to me. Paul George as the third guy. Oh, my God. Like, I truly believe that's the best formula to take down the Warriors is that trio right there. I don't know that he could go find another trio. Now, maybe Chris Paul and James Harden, because of the success that they had this last season and with that team, maybe that's a better one. You could make the argument, and I'm not saying it definitely isn't. But for me, if I'm looking on paper and I think about what it would look like on the court, I kind of like this fit in Oklahoma City better. And I'm trying to be unbiased with this take, but I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Celtics obviously would be a pretty great, it's the easiest road to the finals you could ask for.
That can't happen, right? I mean, what are
Kyrie's probably going to be like, what the hell?
Right. Well,
like,
it would
why?
have to be a sign and trade situation, I'm pretty sure, with the Celtics, just like it would with most teams. Mm-hmm. And so who are the Celtics going to use in that sign and trade? Kyrie. You going to trade him back to Cleveland? That would be kind of funny.
Oh, man, that would suck. Not saying like
so
Cleveland's
angry.
a bad place, but
Right.
that would just be like, wait, hold on. What? Wasn't I just here?
Yeah, but it is
be
amazing
absurd.
the power that LeBron has right now.
Yeah.
He can literally say, I want to go there, and, Cleveland will do what they have to do. So if you want to go to Oklahoma City, so here's the situation. If he says, you know what, I've considered all my options, I've talked to a bunch of players, I want to go to Oklahoma City. Talk to Russ, talk to Paul George, talk to Melo. This is where I want to be.
We
Here's how
figured out a way to get Melo the hell out of there.
it's gonna happen. Yeah, that ain't happening. If LeBron's coming,
Yeah,
Melo,
no, he's not leaving.
no,
There's
which
one
I'm fine
chance
with,
to
by
win.
the way. I'm fine with.
Yeah, then
If-
it would make sense.
If LeBron comes, Melo can stay and take all of our money. I'm fine with it. But here's how it would work. So he would say, I want to go to Oklahoma City. He would have to opt in. He can't opt out of his contract, so he has a player option this next year. And it's going to be around the same amount that he could sign a one-year deal for anyways. Mm-hmm. So he could just opt in. Then Cleveland could trade him so it wouldn't even be a sign and trade. It would just be a trade. And they could trade him, and you would have to match salaries, of course, because the Thunder's salary cap situation, they're way over the cap, way into the luxury tax. And most likely Steven Adams is going to have to be a part of this thing. When you think because it's either going to be Melo or Adams, and it's not going to be Melo because he has a no trade clause, and there's no way in hell Melo's going to sign up for, I'm being traded for LeBron. And the Cavs, that doesn't help them. So it's going to have to be Adams in that situation, which sucks. I'm sure that LeBron would want Adams on the team. Right. But LeBron is a guy that can probably get out there and bring in, you get LeBron. Think of all the veterans that you'd be able to bring in.
Yeah.
They'd flock to you.
Yeah, pretty much anybody's like, I could just go there and hopefully, have the second best chance to get a ring or best chance.
Right. So that's one thing you could look at. And if you think about those possibilities, when you think about LeBron opting in, then being traded, there's not many better options for Cleveland than Steven Adams in return. Guys that are young, make that money, and are going to make that money, are locked up for years ahead. That's a pretty good situation for Cleveland. If you get Steven Adams in return and you get him for 3 more years or whatever he's under contract for, not terrible.
What about Kyle Singler?
If only he made $25 million. But that's the thing. That's what makes this so, I want to say, appealing to Cleveland, even though they really don't have a say in the matter.
Right.
But it's almost like LeBron could say, well, here you go. At least I can get you, I will do something for you, unlike what Kevin Durant does.
Yeah, because he might end up just going back there not too long from that time.
Yeah. Maybe he wants to play his last year there again.
Yeah.
That'd be so weird.
Maybe
He just keeps bouncing around, but always comes back to Cleveland.
Maybe they have the first pick and they take his son and he goes to
There
Cleveland to play with. I saw someone tweet about that, but I don't think it's going to
Yeah, he said that would be his greatest NBA achievement would be to play on the same court as his son, which is that would be cool.
That would be insane. A tweet that I really liked, and it kind of blew up on Twitter a little bit, at Thunder Radar. They said, wouldn't it just be awesome for LeBron and Russ, arguably the 2 guys who got screwed over the most by KD's weak move, to team up and take him down? Yes. Mm-hmm. There's so many layers here. There's so many layers because think about the instance that LeBron would come out and say, I want to go to Oklahoma City. Say that happened. Think how that would make KD feel.
Yeah.
Just that before he even went to Oklahoma City, before he even got traded to OKC, KD would be like, "What?" He'd be shaking. He'd be shaking a little bit, right?
Well, KD's spent a lot of his career, oddly enough, not following LeBron, but doing exactly what LeBron does just a few years later.
Mm-hmm.
So LeBron goes to Oklahoma City. What is that? What does Kevin Durant do? Wait, that was the place that I was. It's almost like where you pose the just that weird thing to robots and it makes their head explode. That's exactly what would happen to Kevin Durant. LeBron's going to Oklahoma City, head explode, boom, done.
I mean, I almost think
Paradox. That's the word.
That's the one.
I almost think KD would get mad at LeBron as a friend.
Like personally.
You backstab. Yeah, you backstab.
He calls
me.
him a backstabber. It's like, bro,
Yeah. You're really not good at understanding things. You realize that, right? But if you think about that, that would be amazing. That would be such a cool thing for the Thunder fans. Now, that being said, all of this being said, it's so far-fetched, right? It feels far-fetched. It feels like there's no chance of it happening.
Well, and especially for the way things go for us. Definitely doesn't feel like it's going to happen.
Right, that as well. And
But, I mean, in that same line, I remember saying, like us all saying, like, there's no chance we get a big free agent last year. And then we landed.
Raymond Felton.
Yeah. We landed Ray. So,
who's the free agent you're going with here? It's either Patrick Patterson or Raymond.
Paul George.
You were just going to say basically.
I remember when we got Paul George and everyone was like, well, no one thought that's where he was going.
Right. Yep.
So, it could happen again.
I know.
Wouldn't hold your breath, though.
Oh, I'm not planning on it. That's for sure.
It's great to talk about. I love the idea of it. And honestly, I want a championship in my city. I wanted, I just watched the Washington Capitals win the Stanley Cup and those parades and Alex Ovechkin, who did it the right way. He didn't leave teams. He stayed with the team he got drafted by. Saw a lot of other guys have a lot of success. He knew he was really great.
And he got ripped on a lot over his whole career for not winning.
Finally got his chance.
Yeah.
And I want that to be Russ. I want Russ to be the new Ovi.
Yeah.
And I want him to be, going nuts with the Larry O'Brien downtown, trying to find a way to drink beer out of it while everyone stands around cheering. Or going to a Oklahoma City Dodgers game and standing there just holding the Larry O'Brien the entire game.
They go to a minor league game.
But I actually watched a video of that guy,
Ovi,
accepting the trophy or something when he was just super emotional, and I was imagining that being Russ, and it was amazing.
Isn't he been in the NHL for 13 years or something like that?
Yeah, his rookie season was after the 04-05 lockout season. I know more about hockey than
Well,
you found a way to bring hockey.
Well, see,
in.
so I don't pay attention to hockey, but I know who Alexander Ovechkin is.
Exactly.
Everyone does. He is the guy.
He's a household name.
He's the guy that has been he's awesome, but he can't win it. He can't. He chokes. They choke. They've always choked, right? And now they didn't choke. And that's kind of almost the same career path that Russell Westbrook is on right now, as far as the narrative and everything.
He's the one that ended up not getting back.
Yeah, there's a lot of parallels there, and I like that. I'm with you. I want this, and I think the scary thing here for us is that it feels like things are closer than we'd like them to be as far as being over. Oh. That window. Paul George leaves. You don't get LeBron. I mean, I know that no one here is considering the LeBron thing a realistic thing, but I guarantee
with that attitude.
I guarantee you that Sam Presti is calling LeBron's agent.
Well, yeah.
Every day texting him. I guarantee it. And if I'm Russ, if I'm Paul George, I'm doing the same thing. Now, it sucks because Paul George is a little bit in limbo here. What's he going to do? So can he really be recruiting LeBron to Oklahoma City? Or is he going to be recruiting LeBron to L.A.?
Right, yeah. It's there's that whole, wasn't it Woj that was they're going to talk about going to L.A. together? Mm-hmm. Wouldn't it be weird if he's well, hey, if you don't want to go to L.A. together, what if we just stayed here?
You get Russ.
You get Russell
instead of
Lonzo. Better.
Man. If you just think about that. Think about that team. It's fun to think about.
Go beat the Warriors this year. Well, let's go win the championship this year. Mm-hmm. Then we can go out to LA together.
Later.
But this year,
several years.
This year, let's get you some revenge. Mm-hmm. Let's get Oklahoma City some help. Let's get them some jubilation they deserve, and let's get Russ that ring that he's earned it, but now he actually needs it.
The problem is this is coming from a very a place in you that needs to be filled. But these guys aren't looking at it like that. No one has any sympathy for Oklahoma City. If anyone on the outside is like looking at it now and us talking about this and us talking about, well, it's probably not realistic. They're just like, boo-hoo.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Big whoop.
You guys stole a thing.
Yeah, you guys stole it from Seattle or whatever.
And then you didn't
know
get
what I
a
mean?
win.
It's funny because an argument that was gaining steam, 5 years ago when KD was really just becoming one of the most popular players in the league, was that, hey, big markets aren't a thing anymore. There's no separation. There absolutely is now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There absolutely is, and we're seeing it right now. And I don't know if the reason we're seeing it is because in a movie when someone... Okay, so it's like in Forrest Gump, when Forrest saves Lieutenant Dan in the woods, and Lieutenant Dan says, I was supposed to die here.
Mm-hmm.
It was my destiny. That's how I feel to Kevin Durant right now. It was your destiny to stay in Oklahoma City, and you ruined it.
Everything.
Yeah, ruined it.
Kevin Durant, ice cream.
Yeah. Oh, Lieutenant Dan, ice cream. So going back to what it would take as far as a sign and trade goes, it would be Adams. It would probably be Robertson and Ferguson. Think about that package if you're Cleveland. It's not bad.
I like it.
I don't like losing Robertson at all.
Yeah.
But you know what? I do it. Do it. And maybe you can do Adams, Abrinas, and Patterson, something like that. You need about Adams plus another $10 million, plus another $12 million, really.
Kyle Singler.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Somehow toss him in there.
So having LeBron come, if that were to happen, it would make you feel better about Melo, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, slides him down the totem pole some more. Maybe LeBron's just like, dude, bench, go.
Right.
And he does it.
I guarantee he would. He would have a little magic potion for Melo. I mean, Melo would be able to be accepting of things a little easier, I would assume.
It's like, hey, we're going to get you a ring, so just
Right.
do whatever we say.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So
I just want this to happen now. I wish you, by the way, wouldn't have gotten my hopes up for this because it's so unlikely, but now it's all I'm going to be thinking about.
we got to have something to talk about. It's the dead of the offseason, guys.
Accurate.
And, okay, the more I think about it, the more it just makes sense, and so I can't ignore it, right? That's the problem that I'm having here, is that it makes sense
Yeah, like
as a team.
basketball-wise, it definitely does.
Yeah, like, and I would bet that there's a podcast in Utah right now saying the same thing about them.
Yeah.
Is it makes sense? Come here.
Yeah, but they suck.
That is an objective take, I promise. So then let's shift LeBron to LA, where we talked about
I don't like it.
that has the best odds. Do you think, at least in Vegas, the best odds in Vegas, do you think that LeBron going there, do you think that he'd actually go there, considering everything that comes with it, the LeVar Ball stuff, the young guys that he's going to have to join, and yeah, they're going to be able to create another max slot, and that max slot will get filled if he goes to LA.
Yeah.
It will, by either Paul George or DeMarcus Cousins. It's going to
Probably
happen.
Paul George. Damn it.
What if... Well, number one, let's start with that. Do you think LeBron is willing to take that on? Do you think that he's so big, so above everything, that maybe if he makes that move, it kind of cancels everything out and he steals the spotlight from it all? LeVar Ball's not going to like that.
Yeah.
He's going to try, right, but he's going to try to do everything to take some of that spotlight back, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. That's what he does.
So that could create some turmoil in itself.
Is LeBron like, okay, so he's played with mostly veterans. Like he's all, since he left for Miami, he's drawn veterans towards him, towards his teams to try and win championships. I really don't think that he's ready to try and take on, like, you know, I'm in my mid-30s now. Like, am I going to be some, like, teacher, mentor role, but still be the leader of this team? Like,
If he wanted that, couldn't he just stay in Cleveland?
yeah, exactly. Like, I think you want, if you're LeBron, like, clearly a lot of your legacy is based on how many rings you have. And
Yeah,
I don't think having a bunch of young guys with no direction is really the way to go. I mean, Utah had a bunch of young guys, and like they were trending in the right direction, but they're still too young. So you kind of put that with LeBron in LA with similar, not similar talent, but just that young, like kind of bright future kind of situation. I just don't know that LeBron would want to carry that rather than having a bunch of veterans that are proven guys that are going to go out there, and you put LeBron on that team and they know exactly what they have to do and they're going to get the job done.
Yeah, it's hard. it goes back to the same argument we always make, right? Or the same point we always make is that what's important to him at this juncture in his career. Because I have trouble believing that it's anything but winning, because I think you're right. He cares about that legacy.
Yeah, absolutely, he does.
He wants to get another one. He doesn't want that last one to be that some people consider it almost fluky. I mean, it wasn't fluky, but he took down a 73-win team.
Well, I think his goal is to be the greatest player of all time. Like, that's what he wants, and regardless of whether that's possible for him or not, it's what he wants. I
think about the story that if he were to go join another team that has something in place, that is a good team, like the Thunder, if he were to go join that team and then win again, it's almost like this huge, mega, just kind of like triumphant story, like what he had to do to take down the big bad Warriors that got everything set off the rails from Kevin Durant. But he has to do that now.
But I mean, like if he went to the Lakers, like that's a better team than the Cavs, like because Rodney Hood was terrible. Clarkson was, I don't even know
Kevin
what he was.
Love. I don't know if they are
but
better
I mean,
than the
there you
Cavs.
go. Like you have Love, Tristan Thompson.
Yeah.
Like he has a couple pieces there that he's used to and comfortable with. And I'm sure in the offseason the Cavs are able to do pretty much a lot of stuff by just having LeBron still.
Right.
So,
but maybe LeBron thinks, hey, I can do even more stuff if I'm in LA. I don't know. But who's to say that? So if LeBron goes to LA, is Paul George gone?
Yes.
It seems very likely. Yeah.
What if the Lakers prefer Boogie Cousins? What if LeBron says, you know what, I think I'd rather have Cousins than Paul George, as far as with this team, with this fit? That's not too crazy, right?
Yeah.
Then Paul George is stuck in the situation where
He's stuck with us, and he's like, well,
I guess I'm staying in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Something that I thought of earlier today that I was like, well, that could be a possibility. But the problem is that they could sign Paul George, and then Boogie Cousins could say, I want to go to LA. I want to go there and force like a sign and trade or take less, or probably not even take less. I don't know if they'd even be able to do that after that, but a sign and trade of some sorts. Yeah. But it'd be hard to pull off. I mean, New Orleans would be under no obligation to do it, to fulfill that, but they could say sayonara. I mean, even Durant. What if LeBron could call Durant and say, hey, man, come play with me? They're ripping on you in Oakland. Was it Joe Lacob or Bob Myers? I get him confused.
This is Bob Myers, yeah.
I get him confused. What'd he say again? That was so good.
He earned it or something like that, didn't he?
Yeah, saying Steph Curry
earned
it.
Yeah.
And that he was just telling the media that Kevin Durant could have any contract he wanted, but that was a lie because it was just for the media. Now Curry could because he earned it. He had been there. He had been through everything. Oh, God, that made a lot of people happy.
He could just come back to Oklahoma City and try and patch all the things that he messed up in the first place.
Huh. I don't know. I don't know if he could.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, that would still be messed up, though, because he couldn't sign, like, a max deal in Oklahoma City, so he would have to. That would also have to be a sign and trade situation.
Oh, if he signed and trade back to.
No,
that's. I am breaking into the Chesapeake Energy Arena, kicking Sam Presti's door down. Like, look, I want KD back here, but we're not losing more just to have that guy back.
Right. So now the Warriors get Adams. You know, like no, that's messed up. We so just all yell at once. But it's. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the LeBron thing's fun to think about. What's crazy, guys, is that we're a couple weeks away from knowing all this stuff.
Yeah, it's not too far out. It's crazy how that just like pops up.
I know. I'm a little nervous. So what's your gut feeling about LeBron right now? Where's he going? Where's he ending up?
My gut's with Philly.
Really?
I hate it, but it's with Philly.
I worry about the fit there, and I feel
weird
like
with Ben Simmons being a LeBron.
Yeah,
Jr.
the thing to me is that LeBron seems to view everything in he's got such a great basketball mind. Mm-hmm. Is he going to look at that and say, we can make it work? Or is he going to go somewhere, you know, if he really cares about his legacy so much, or will he go somewhere that he feels like he fits in like a glove and the team is already in place for him? Like the Thunder.
I just think he's staying in the East, and I think in his mind, I could see him looking at that and be like, yeah, they're young, but they're polished. Like, there's a lot more to work with there than in LA. And I'm just going to stay in the East, take that easy road, and then get to the finals. And I think Joel Embiid and I can take down the Warriors.
Yeah, I don't. You know, I don't think so. I don't think they could. even.
I don't think they could either. But
I don't know if they could take down the Celtics when healthy.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I just think that's what goes through LeBron.
Yeah.
I don't think LeBron even considers the Celtics
No.
an organization just because of how much he's dismantled them over his career.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah. There's been a rivalry there, and I don't
Yeah,
think that.
I think
it's
he's just staying in
one-sided.
Cleveland. Honestly, like,
Do you?
yeah,
That'd be so anticlimactic.
That'd be
Just
weird.
Everyone.
yeah, it's just like,
Aw.
well, again,
Adam Silver's actually on the phone just feeding the rumor mill. Like LeBron does, like he's just gonna stay in Cleveland, and he keeps hearing these things. Like, where is this coming from?
Yeah. If he were to go to LA, and Paul George were to go, I mean, how far can that team get?
I don't know. I don't
don't
feel like
either.
it's really that great. Still,
I mean, it's obviously you have a LeBron that you're probably at least a second round
is
team
their
no matter
center
what.
still Brooke Lopez?
I think he's a free agent,
Oh, okay, good.
so no. But they will have Julius Randle if they want, which I imagine if LeBron wants him, they will.
Let's bring IT back.
That would be funny. Hey,
It's
you're
like, you're back, huh?
you're reunited. So let's before we call Chris, the latest on Paul George, the TMZ clip. People are talking about it. People are freaking out a little bit about it. They asked Paul George if he would like LeBron in OKC, and I'm sure everyone listening has seen the clip. He kind of just he kind of looked up, like almost in annoyance to the question. I'm not really sure. It's hard to read him. And he said, you're going to have to ask LeBron that. Did you take anything away from this entire video where he kind of talked about LA, kind of talked about OKC, but he didn't give anything away? And he's talking to TMZ. Anything to take away from this thing?
No, and there's nothing to take away from much of anything that TMZ ever posts or
anything that Paul George says.
yeah,
Right.
he's going to be tight-lipped. Like I'm sure his agent is always in the shadows, working around, like walking up to him, like don't say anything.
Yeah.
This is all to us.
Right.
But no, I don't take any sort of substance from anything right now. Not until July 1, sure, but until then, no. Nothing is real.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just don't know I don't know what to think right now, because Mark Stein comes out the other day and he says that there's a growing belief around the league that Oklahoma City has a real shot at retaining Paul George. Jason, you felt good about keeping Paul George somehow. You're like one of the only people that kind of felt good about it. How are you feeling now? Has it changed?
I still feel pretty good. Like, that video to me didn't really. It was like he was telling them nothing at all the whole time.
I agree.
Rob was real upset about it, but he's not here to defend himself, so
Yeah.
it meant nothing.
Perfect.
But I still feel pretty good about PG staying here. Obviously, I think if LeBron goes to LA, that changes a lot. Like, clearly that is a big change. However,
Which we said months ago.
yeah. But I feel like, I mean, it's obvious that him and Russ have developed a really, like, an actual friendship, and it seems different than most anything you've seen with Russ before. Like, if you try to compare it to KD, they didn't really hang out like that outside of basketball that much. And it's like, I mean, they've been, like, Russ went to his kid's birthday. They went and played paintball. They've been doing all this stuff in the offseason.
Seems like Russ is trying to make a concerted effort.
Yeah, he's like, hey, let's be friends.
I
Yeah,
don't do this with anyone, but I'm doing it with you.
Right. I made this mistake. Maybe he sees it like that. I've made this mistake before.
Or maybe they're just genuinely, they like each other and they, like, I don't know, maybe they're trying to just develop more of a rapport now so that it flows over into basketball next year. And so for those reasons, I'm in.
For the nice.
To flip
For
the
those
Shark
reasons,
Tank on
you
you.
have a deal. So real quick, before we call Chris, what's this team without Paul George? Paul George leaves. What are expectations here?
Oh, there's not much of an expectation, right? Like,
I mean,
hopefully we make the playoffs.
That's it, right? That's the expectation.
It's like Russ's team the year prior to last. Where
And then Presti's in a situation where there's not much to work with. Now, obviously, I think then Adams becomes your top piece to say, and when I say piece, I mean to move, to get something in return for. And I don't think any of us want that.
Man,
That's
I just
a
want
scary
to
situation.
reiterate that. Like, we keep talking about trading Adams, but I really don't want to. Love the guy.
It's just, honestly, I think that Presti saw something ahead of time where he said, look, I can lock up these young guys, Victor Oladipo, Steven Adams, for long periods of time, like 4-year contracts on, I'm paying them, but there's a value to locking guys up right now.
Yeah,
and that's
because teams want that contract. Like, I mean, if they get a guy, it's not like expiring contracts aren't what they were once. So.
right.
Shall we call Mr. Chris Stone?
Give him a call.
Let's do it.
We're going to talk about the Thunder's draft a
Hopefully he
little bit
Yeah. Hey, what's going on?
Hey, Chris. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good.
That's Jason. I'm Brandon. Justin's here.
What's
Hey,
up?
Chris.
What's up, guys?
Let's just jump right into it. This, everybody, is college basketball and NBA draft expert. You can find his work over at Sporting News. Fanside is a step back. On Twitter, he's at CStoneHoops. Chris, I'm going to jump right into it. Is Ayton the clear-cut number one in your eyes?
Not in my eyes at all. If I were in charge of the Phoenix Suns, I would take Luka Doncic. I don't think there would be much debate for me in terms of making that decision. I think that the direction that the league is headed and the value of oversized initiators in that league is incredibly obvious. And then I just think from a talent and production perspective that Doncic is a step above the rest. I have some real questions about Ayton's ability to translate defensively to the NBA level. And when that's the case with the big man, he needs to be elite offensively. And I think that there are question marks about whether or not he can do that. So for me, Ayton would not be the number one pick, even though I think that he is almost assuredly going to be.
Oh, really? So that was going to be my next question is there any chance that the Suns take Doncic? With their new coach, there was a whole thing about they brought in, I don't even remember his name. I think it's pretty hard to pronounce. he's the Lithuanian coach, right?
Yeah.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
Slovenian.
Slovenian.
Igor Kokoska. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a connection there to Doncic, right? But you still think it's Ayton?
Yeah, I mean, there is a connection there to Doncic. I think that people are probably going to read into that connection pretty significantly, even if Doncic doesn't go number one, and say things like, the fact that he didn't select Doncic number one says something about Doncic. But, he's already on record saying that Doncic is the most talented player he's ever coached. And remember that there are obviously connections to Ayton here as well. Ayton went to University of Arizona, obviously close to Phoenix. Robert Sarver, the Suns' owner, is a big Arizona donor, and so that connection exists. He played high school basketball in Phoenix, and so all of that kind of local connection exists, and ultimately the head coach will probably have some level of input, but it's going to be the front office and the owner who ends up making that decision, and right now all signs point to it being DeAndre Ayton.
Chris, when you see a game-changing success in a guy like Rudy Gobert right now, in the impact that he's having on the NBA right now, and you see a guy like Mo Bamba who has these insane measurables at the combine. He's running faster than Russell Westbrook up the court. Why is he not being considered for that number one pick?
I think that the comparisons between Bamba and Gobert miss the spot on a couple of things. And one of those things is that Gobert is physically just significantly stronger and had a better body type than Bamba. Wider hips, wider shoulders, was able to put on weight and really build, muscle onto that frame. And I think that there are questions about whether or not Bamba can do that. The other aspect of it is just kind of the way that they play. Gobert is a high-energy guy, plays with a high motor, really tough. And Bamba at times at Texas didn't show that level of tenacity on the court. And when your goal is to anchor a defense in the way that you would hope someone like Gobert can, you really need that. And so from my perspective, I don't really think that Bamba gets the most out of his physical tools in terms of having a 7'10" wingspan and a 9'7" standing reach, just because I don't necessarily know that he plays up to them.
9'7". That's insane.
It's absurd. Like, he's 3 inches away from just touching the rim. I remember when I was a kid, I'd try to jump to touch the rim, and it's like Bamba can basically stand there and probably get on his tiptoes and touch it.
Oh, wow.
ridiculous.
It's like that. Did you see that clip yesterday with the 12-year-old kid?
Oh, yeah. Playing on the 8-foot rim.
Oh, my God.
So, kind of looking at the lottery, specifically within these first 10 guys, do you look at anyone and think this guy's going to end up a bust in the NBA?
I think what's weird about this draft, I don't necessarily
Don't be
think
afraid,
that way.
Chris. Scold him.
No. I don't necessarily think that way about prospects in general. All of these prospects in my mind have some level of bust potential. And I'll say that I think that this particular group of top 10 picks feels like they have more downside than a lot of top 10 picks historically do. I think that even the best prospects in this class have at least one thing or two things that you can really point to and be like, if that thing doesn't pan out, it's going to make it really hard for them to be a top 10 pick, quality player over the course of their career. So, like, if we take Trae Young, for example, I think Trae Young has an incredibly high ceiling in the modern NBA, just given the value of his shooting and passing. But, like, the quality of his defense is going to matter pretty significantly. If he can play to be just like a slightly below average defender, he's probably going to be a plus player in the NBA. But there are, like, some real possible outcomes where he's like Isaiah Thomas bad defensively and just is unable to live up to the value of that pick.
But I suppose there's situations where, even with Isaiah Thomas, not this past season, but the year before, he's a top 5 MVP guy because they were able to surround him with personnel that were able to make up for his defensive woes, right?
Yeah, certainly. And I mean, obviously, like, situational stuff is really important. And I think that's something that gets glossed over in a lot of draft discussions is the important role that fit can play in terms of player development. Not necessarily that teams should draft for fit necessarily, but that, these ecosystems that these players get dropped into and the training staffs that they work with and everything like that can help shape that. And certainly lineup composition is a piece of that puzzle, which is really what helped Isaiah that last year with the Celtics.
With Trae Young, let's hang on Trae Young for a second because I know people in this region,
They want
to hear about Trae Young. I know Justin over
At
here.
this table,
At this table, he wants to hear about Trae Young. Could this Trae Young, I mean, first of all, let's start with this. How high do you see that he could possibly be picked, and how low could he be picked?
So I think if I were guessing on a ceiling for him in terms of how high he could go, I think that there's like some chance that the Hawks take him at number 3. There are rumors that the Hawks are really interested. They had him in for our workout. I suspect that they did that with, the possibility of trading down into, the bottom half of the top 10 to make that selection. But that's a possibility, right?
Do
I
you
would
think they would
guess
be
that he
moving?
doesn't. Go ahead.
Sorry. Do you think they would be moving Schroeder if they did that? Like, would that be something that they're kind of looking at?
I mean, that would be my guess. Like, it sounds like he doesn't really want to play for them, and
Yeah, I know
So I
there's
don't-
been some turmoil
yeah.
there.
yeah. And then in terms of a floor for Young, it would probably surprise me if he made it past the Knicks at 9. I think so. Somewhere in that range would be my guess. Whether or not some trade happens that determines the destination.
Well, do you think it's a situation like when Curry came out, right? He kind of I don't know if I want to say he fell to 7th, but he was taken 7th, and I'm sure a lot of the teams that were ahead of him are like, man, what did we do? Could there be a situation here with Trae Young where those teams up there are like, we don't want to make this mistake again.
Yeah, right.
Now, I'm not saying those are the same teams, but they don't want to do that. They don't want to miss out on the next guy that could really be a transcendent talent in this league.
Yeah, I mean, the fear of missing out could be real, but I honestly think, like, when it comes down to it, people, GMs in particular, I can take some risks when I put together a big board online because I don't really have much at stake except, like, next year when someone doesn't play well, someone's going to tweet at me and be like, haha, nerd, you put this person too high.
That person,
but a GM has,
don't worry about that
real
person.
risk at stake, right? Like, a GM, if they make the wrong pick, it goes poorly, and you don't necessarily get fired for missing on the best guy as long as you get a guy. And so I think that there's some fear of missing out with Trae Young, but there's also just like so much risk inherent in his profile because if he isn't, if he's a 36% three-point shooter instead of a 38 or 40% three-point shooter, that swings his profile pretty significantly given that he doesn't project to have an impact really defensively. I think, though, that from my perspective, I think he's probably worth the risk because, like you said, I don't think he can be Steph Curry. Like, let's just get that out there. But, like, if you said in, 7 years that Trae Young is a version of Damian Lillard that is a better passer, that would, like, not really surprise me.
Right.
And that's a pretty
I mean,
solid
that's-
get right there.
Yeah, that's a number
That's a
one
really
pick in
good
most
player.
drafts. Yeah, that's a number one pick in most drafts.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, I think that that's a possible outcome, but there's just, like, such a range of outcomes for him. Like, if his ability to create separation doesn't translate. One of the things in particular I've been concerned with him is, like, he doesn't have the advanced dribble moves yet to really generate separation for his shot. And I think that came on a little bit over the course of the end of the year, but early in the year, right, when he was taking all of those, like, 28, 30 footers, it wasn't because he was generating space with his handle. he was just standing so far back that every college defender was like, "You're not gonna shoot that." And he was like, "Well, yes, I am." And so that stuff kind of, I think, is concerning. You want to be able to make sure that he can create that type of separation to be that type of elite offensive talent. And if he can, he's going to be great. But if he can't, then, there are some real question marks about what his floor is.
Yeah, as an OU grad, like I watched a ton of Trae Young. He really got exposed, kind of starting with West Virginia at the turn of the year into 2018. But I remember, the SEC Big 12 Challenge, how disappointing that was for the Big 12 as a whole. But watching the battle between Colin Sexton and Trae Young, I've noticed a lot of people have brought this up, and I've seen some of your stuff as well on this topic. So Colin Sexton and Trae Young?
Yeah, look, I think this is a pretty clear Trae Young pick for me in terms of that race. I think Trae Young's the best point guard in the class, and a large percentage of that has to do with his shooting ability and the potential for that to not only be impactful in terms of putting points on the scoreboard, but just in terms of being a gravitational pull for the defense and not allowing the defense to get away. I think he has upside as well, just in terms of his ability to run off of screens and play off the ball, which is something he didn't really get to do at Oklahoma because they didn't kind of have that secondary creator who could operate the offense in that way. Sexton, to me, is a really interesting prospect, super competitive, super tough, really great downhill guy, and I think probably projects to be a better shooter than people expect, given that he took a ton of his threes off the dribble and unassisted, made a lot of unassisted two-point jumpers this year, and has a relatively high free throw percentage. But it's just not going to be probably to the level of Trae Young in terms of range and the quickness with which he gets the shot off. So for my money, I'm in on Trae Young. I certainly understand the attractiveness of Colin Sexton as a prospect. He's not near the same level of passer, though, and has questions in terms of how much the jump shot's going to translate. I still think he is a top 15 kid. I think some people are lower on him than that. But Trae Young, to me, is far and away right now a better prospect.
Well, Chris, who is your most surefire all-star in this lottery, I should say?
It's weird because I think that a lot of people view Luka Doncic as sort of a safe play who is just kind of going to be a steady hand no matter what.
At worst, maybe a role player or something.
Yeah, at worst. But, I think that really undersells Doncic's upside in terms of his potential development. The biggest concern with Doncic is his athletic development and whether or not he can explode vertically enough or be quick enough to blow by defenders in the NBA. And I think it's a realistic and totally reasonable question. But I also think, he's 19 years old. He just turned 19 years old. He has been playing basketball for the last 18 months, hasn't had a real offseason to actually, train his body, get it into shape. European clubs aren't known for having the same type of regimens that NBA teams do. And I think that there's a real chance that we see athletic improvement with him, that when combined with the level of skill that he has, just is kind of shocking to people. I think of Jason Tatum, for example, when I talk about athletic improvement. Tatum, when he played for Duke last year, wasn't a particularly athletic player. And then he got into the NBA, and you see him throw down some of these dunks, and you're like, man, that's not something he did at Duke.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that there's room for that improvement with Doncic, and the skill level being so high is what, in my mind, makes it pretty much a lock that he will at some point make all-star teams regularly.
So last season, I think, Donovan Mitchell, did he go 13th? I want to say 13th.
Yeah.
And obviously he would be Rookie of the Year in 90% of NBA seasons, right? So is there a guy in that range that could be this year's Donovan Mitchell? That could, they could kind of jump up and catch people by surprise?
Yeah, so I'm going to just take my risk here because I have an article about this coming out tomorrow. If I were to name a Donovan Mitchell, I'll give you two names. One name is Zaire Smith. I have him 8th on my board. I definitely understand the hesitations. He was not really an offensive factor today. One of the things that is in my piece is that Synergy tracks basket cuts, which are effectively dump-off passes around the rim. It's big guys hanging out in the dunker spot, rise up and dunk there. Donovan Mitchell had 5 of those possessions as a freshman. Zaire Smith had 54 of them, which is on par with Marvin Bagley, DeAndre Ayton, Wendell Carter Jr., all the bigs in the class. And that's just reflective of how he played. He didn't get those creation opportunities. But if you look back at some of his statistics in terms of projection, he appears to be an incredibly high IQ player, both on the film and in terms of the statistics. He generates a lot of steals. He has a great assist-to-turnover ratio, and they match up really well with freshman versions of Donovan Mitchell. And the thing to keep in mind is Mitchell was 19 years old when he was a freshman. Zaire Smith was 18 years old. So Zaire may not be Donovan Mitchell next year, but he might be, in that vein the year after that, or at least that's what you're hoping for when you bet on these types of players. And there's some evidence, by Lane Vastro, who's an analyst for the Nuggets now, that he wrote a while back that suggests that those are the types of players you should bet on to improve in terms of their skill development. Like, it may take Zaire some time. But if I were risking it, he would be probably my number one pick for this. And then my second pick would be DeAnthony Melton from USC, who didn't play this year but has, similar IQ and feel indicators, but struggles with, or struggled with the year that he played college basketball, generating efficient offense.
Interesting. Let's keep moving down because we're slowly working our way to where the Thunder pick. And obviously, I don't think we can. It's not fair to ask you, hey, who are the Thunder taking at 53? But it is interesting because to look at some of these guys. Look at some of these guys that maybe there's a diamond in the rough here that the Thunder can get. You don't often see guys taking past 50 that turn out to be solid NBA players. Obviously, there's guys like Isaiah Thomas, who we mentioned earlier. There are a select few guys that come in and make an impact. A guy that's intriguing to me, and I'm no college basketball expert. I don't watch a lot, but I have watched this guy for obviously because I think he went to Kansas for about 11 years. Devontae Graham. Any chance he falls down that far to where the Thunder can take him?
That's interesting. I think I would be surprised if he fell all the way to 53. I would suspect he probably goes in the top 45-ish picks in the draft. He's a prospect that I really like, though. I think he has command over the floor when he leads a team. He's a really excellent, just floor general in that capacity. He has the ability to knock down jump shots off the dribble. I think he is a very capable passer. There are some athletic question marks. There are some question marks about his finishing around the rim. But he's going to compete on defense. He can knock down shots. I think if he were there at 53, he would be a terrific pickup. And he's already 23 years old, so you only are going to get so many years out of him. But you're really just looking for someone who can kind of steady the ship during Russell Westbrook's time on the bench. And I think he'd be a fantastic pickup. I just think that there's a reasonable chance that he is gone before that comes around.
Okay, another guy kind of in that range, one of our followers, Dr. Upper 90, brought this up to us, and it was really interesting. I've looked into it a little bit, but the name carries a lot more than production on the floor from the University of Dayton. Kostas Antetokounmpo, because I can never say that correctly.
Yeah. Look, I don't really know that Kostas is a realistic NBA prospect right now. I mean, I understand that someone is probably going to take a risk on him. He's 6'10", he's massive, he has name recognition. But we're talking about someone who played 15 minutes a game for Dayton and was not necessarily particularly productive in those 15 minutes a game. Terrible offensive rating, just doesn't really have the ability to generate offense yet in that capacity. I think if I were the Thunder, I would be looking more into some of the wings that are in that area. Sviatoslav Mikhailuk sticks out to me as a possibility. Gary Clark from Cincinnati is a 6'7" kind of combo forward who sticks out to me there. Really great team defender who can shoot it a little bit and rebound it a little bit. Those are the types of players I would probably be looking towards rather than a prospect like Kostas.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. If there are any guys that kind of come to your mind when you think about those late picks in the draft, because I think generally, a lot of times they're draft and stash guys where people are like, I don't really know how to pick. I'm just going to take this guy from this country and maybe he'll get good and he can come over. Yeah. Or it's a senior that people don't really want to take in the first round because they're like, well, he's 23 years old and there's not much time to develop and get better. He's already done most of that in college. Those are those kind of, do you have any other guys that you kind of want to reveal to us that, hey, these guys are, everyone wants that next Jordan Bell, and maybe Jordan Bell's because he went to the Warriors, but everyone kind of wants that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think that there will be viable prospects available in that range in this draft. Gary Clark is one. Svi Mikhailuk is another. I mean, there's a reasonable chance that Svi is like a top 5 shooter in the draft. It's just that he has T-Rex arms and like can't really defend because of it. But you could potentially get a shot at a guy like Justin Jackson, who I think a lot of people projected to be a lottery pick coming into this year, but he missed most of the season with an injury. Didn't shoot it as well as he did last year, but he's like 6'7" with like a 7'2" wingspan and big body. And he's a risk, and there's a reasonable chance that he doesn't pan out into anything, but like he is, in theory, a really talented player who could be an excellent fit for the modern game. Someone like Kendrick Williams, who's 6'7", kind of combo forward out of TCU, can shoot it a little bit, really smart player. Again, another guy who doesn't really stack up in terms of wingspan, but just kind of does all of the little things really well and could probably be a positive contributor right away. Those are probably the direction that I would be looking towards in that range. But one of the positives of this draft is that I think that there are a decent number of players who will be available at the end of the second round who have some equity of being positive NBA players down the line.
And I think a big thing we've talked about on this podcast is, the Thunder have 2 of those picks, and maybe you're able to put those 2 together, trade up 10 picks. Maybe you get up to pick number 40 or whatever. By giving another team picks 53 and 57, you like the second round. You think there's enough to choose from here that teams can actually get something in return.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's quite a bit of value in the second round. Look, I mean, all of these prospects have flaws, right? But if we're talking around 40, like, I don't know that Mo Wagner is going to slip that far from Michigan. But, like, if he does, that's a really great 40th pick. Wagner is kind of like a Lauri Markkanen light on offense who's a worse defender. But having that ability to stretch the floor and space out the offense to the three-point line from the 5 spot is really valuable. Now, he may never be a great NBA player, but he might be someone who can give you a roll off the bench. You look at somebody like Gary Trent Jr., another potential prospect in that range if you're able to move up a little bit. He's a 5-star high school prospect who comes out of Duke, plays at Duke alongside a bunch of other 5-stars with great talent, doesn't really have a high-volume offensive role, but, shows himself to be a terrific shooter, willing to compete on the defensive end, and has some ability to attack closeouts. And, those types of prospects, I feel like, don't necessarily regularly exist in the second round, and I think that there are a decent number of them this year.
And I think maybe now with the NBA's new two-way players,
Yeah.
it presents a little more value. It makes these second-round picks more valuable, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. You're able to keep them on cheaper contracts. I think a decent number of studies have been done that suggest that most of the players who are taken in the second round these days, particularly if they're American college players, do get some type of guaranteed money and do end up, playing for a roster spot. And so, yeah, I mean, I think even though the Thunder are sitting with 2 late second-round picks, there's certainly a chance for them to find value in those this draft.
All right, kind of 2 more guys from UNC, Joel Berry and Theo Pinson. Thoughts on those guys?
Yeah, I don't really think Joel Berry is an NBA player, to be honest with you. Just not really athletic enough to generate any level of separation. I think kind of isn't an elite finisher in the 2-point area. Is a really productive shooter, but it's not clear to me that he would be able to guard anyone in the NBA. Just like not really a guy who's on my radar as an NBA guy. Theo Pinson is really interesting to me. 6'6" wing, long wingspan, really effective defender. Defended Marvin Bagley well in their matchups this year in particular.
Yeah.
This sounds like a Thunder player.
Yeah.
As long as he can't dribble, pass, or shoot, that's a Thunder player.
Yeah. Well, okay, so this is the interesting part about Theo Pinson, though, is he can dribble, and he can
he's out.
He has a little bit of some wing playmaking ability, and that's why I think he's kind of a much more intriguing prospect than Joel Berry. But, like, he's a really bad shooter. And
Perfect.
So
Bring him in.
yeah. Like,
We can put him on the floor with Andre Robertson.
Yeah, it'll work out
yeah,
right.
exactly. But I think there's a little more equity there just because of the defense, because of the passing ability. Maybe, at some point he develops into like a 33% three-point shooter and you can get some value out of that. But both of those guys, I think, are more likely to go undrafted than not.
It's so wild now how, these prospects, how you have to project their ability to shoot the three now. Like every single one of them. It can't just be like, he's never going to be a 3-point shooter, because if you say that about anyone now, it's like, ooh.
Can't even be in the league.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Chris,
I mean, think about a kid like Trayvon Duval, who's a point guard who came into the year as a lottery prospect and never improved as a shooter, and now he looks like he's going to go in the middle of the second round, and
that's crazy.
It's rough.
And God, that just like reminds me of Perry Jones. That's close. That's close to us.
Yeah.
He's a projected number 1 pick years before he comes out, and then he comes out and he goes late first round, and everyone thinks the Thunder got a steal, and turns out he's out of the league. So, Chris, who's your way too early guess for Rookie of the Year? I know you like Doncic. Does he have it immediately? Is he going to be able to get that?
I mean, I think he's the best player in the draft, so that would be my guess. If I were to pick someone else, it would probably be Marvin Bagley, just because I think he's going to be instantly productive in the NBA in terms of counting stats.
I've seen a lot of hate on Marvin Bagley here recently. Or not, I don't want to say hate, but a lot of negative about him.
The hate's so dumb, man. He's good. He's 6'11". If you saw him in high school, and he didn't get the chance to really do this in college, but I saw him last summer right before he reclassified, and he was shooting pull-up threes in transition, and they weren't the most accurate pull-up threes in transition, but he's a 6'11" center,
right.
And as an 18-year-old was already doing that, right? And so I think one of the things, I actually ranted about this on Twitter a little bit today, but one of the things that's happened with these Duke players is not all of them got to show the full skill set that they possess. And I think in Wendell Carter's case, that's been viewed as this shroud of mystery in a positive direction, right? Wendell Carter didn't get to show everything he could do at Duke because Marvin Bagley was the focus of the offense. And it's okay, well, that's a believable story. But the same thing is true of Marvin Bagley. Bagley was kind of pigeonholed into this post-up player with a little bit of a pick-and-pop game. And I think that there's a lot more to his offense than that. He rarely got to rip and run in transition off of defensive rebounds, and that's something he's capable of doing, right?
Is this like a Karl Anthony Towns situation to you?
I mean, I don't know that he's as good offensively as Karl Anthony Towns. In fact, I'll say that he is not as good offensively.
Was Towns – did Towns show that promise in college offensively?
No, yeah. I mean, Towns showed flashes of it, but you're right that he was restricted in terms of what he was able to do, right? Calipari posted him up a ton and kind of put him in that spot. I was actually going to go back to another Kentucky guy, which is Bam Adebayo. And I remember the beginning of the NBA season, Adebayo grabbed the defensive rebound, sprinted down the floor on the dribble, and took it to the basket. And everybody was just wait, what? He didn't do that in college. And it's well, yeah, because Kentucky is designed to play a certain way, and so is Duke. And so I think that there's a lot more that people didn't get to see from Marvin Bagley's game that suggests that he's probably a better player than a lot of people expect. And I fully acknowledge that there are defensive question marks. His instincts aren't necessarily great. His wingspan isn't necessarily great to be a rim protector. But he's a really good basketball player. And what we saw at Duke is not the totality of his game.
Cool, man. So just to get your take on this, we're
gonna send you off with this.
The last question.
Okay.
Where's LeBron going, man?
We've been talking about it all podcast, so we need you to tell us.
Yeah.
I have no idea. And I'll say this. I know that that's not helpful.
You don't have a hunch?
Although I thought the Levitard show thing with Mark Stein today, where they got him to say Miami and then cut off his mic and went crazy, was wonderful.
Yeah.
If I had to just guess, I think it will be somewhere that nobody expects, right? Mm-hmm. It will be a situation where some quality team is able to clear cap space and there's some kind of agreement to have a couple of guys go there. Mm-hmm. Because the only place that really makes sense to me as a fit right now is maybe Houston. Philly obviously makes some sense, but I don't know that that's the direction that LeBron will want to go in terms of playing with younger players. Mm-hmm. And so just the Chris Paul trade, for example, just came out of nowhere, right? Mm-hmm. Chris Paul was I'm going to opt in and you're going to trade me. And they were okay. It would not surprise me if we had like some similar situation like that happen this summer.
Well, that's what we are fantasizing about today, is if he wanted to do that and come to Oklahoma City. And his fit
There you go.
around Westbrook and Paul George sounds intriguing to us. And, we're trying to talk ourselves into this whole thing, and we're living in fantasy land over here. But
yeah, I've basically now assumed that it's happening. So
Yeah, it's just a lock.
yeah, it's happening. It's happening. So, when you go on your next podcast, tell them that we told you this, and when it happens, you were there for it.
I'm in.
Thanks so much, Chris. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next year.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
all right, thanks, man. See ya.
What do you guys think?
I blacked out. I don't know what you guys were talking about that whole time.
I mean, some of the guys that I brought up to you guys beforehand that we talked about, like Mikhailuk is really interesting, and once again, like I'm a Big 12 guy. I'm an OU grad, so like I see
You
so
mentioned
much.
that.
Second name drop for that.
Oh yeah, no, but I see so much more of these guys. Like I'm not watching a whole bunch of Duke or UNC or Maryland basketball, so I'm not seeing these guys on a regular basis. I'm seeing these Big 12 guys. I'm seeing their limitations and their strengths, and someone like a knockdown shooter like Mikhailuk, or I'd really like Malik Newman. I think he's going to fall. Like he's going to get drafted higher, but there are some good things that Oklahoma City could find down there in that 53 to 57 that could maybe somehow turn out into something. But we're still talking about 53 and 57 in the NBA draft.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up, is are we going to have any indicators on draft night of what the Thunder are going to be going forward? Because to me, it feels like, okay, so they could package these picks. They could move up. Say they even throw a player up in there and they move up to 20. Whatever happens. Does that tell us anything? I don't know that it does.
Yeah.
What could possibly tell us anything? What move could they possibly make that would tell us anything?
It's really hard to tell. Like, I mean, because it's a lot of it's not up to them, right? Like, until PG makes his decision,
right?
Like, you don't really know what you're
and
doing
that's
as a
where,
thing. So do they go ahead and trade away picks and a player, and then be like, oh, well, now we got PG, and we could have probably used that guy that we sent away.
I would imagine they're going to play it safe, and they're just going to draft these picks and take it from there. That'd be my guess.
Yeah. I'm still so surprised that the NBA has it to where it's draft and then free agency.
I know.
Yeah,
rather than free agency.
Seems backwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Seems backwards.
Well, what if Oklahoma City had to go into full rebuild mode, but you have no way to do it because the draft already happened?
Yeah, and we don't know what Paul George is going to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a smidge backwards, to say the least.
So we definitely don't have time for Twitter questions.
Well,
No.
I don't think. I think we're pretty far
we're
over.
107.
Yeah.
Get a couple on there.
You know what we're going to do? We'll carry him over to next week.
I like
Sound
it.
good? We had a lot, and we really appreciate them. We probably went over in our discussion period. Probably went over with Chris
We
as well.
fantasized about LeBron for a little too long.
But it was good. It was
But
good
it was
having
fun.
Chris on too. He gave us a lot of good stuff. So let's just hit him with some notes
All right.
here, and then we'll carry this thing out.
Sounds good.
Notes! Just 3 here. The Thunder will open Summer League play in Las Vegas on July 6th with a game against Charlotte at 4:30 p.m. Central Time. That game will air on ESPNU. It's crazy, man. Just when you think you're like, it's off season, and then it's like, oh wait, no, it's not.
It never ends.
It never
Sweet.
ends
I'm
until
excited.
late July.
I'm actually excited about Summer League this year. All 30 teams at the same place.
Until the 3rd game, you're like, nah.
And you're
never
like,
mind.
well, no one should ever
No,
watch
you're right,
this.
though. All 30 teams in the same place is cool.
It is.
I still think we should go.
I'd be down, man.
We should go.
You know what this is? This is Las
Let's
Vegas.
book it right here on the podcast.
Las Vegas is vying for that number 31 team. They're trying to be the expansion team.
They're trying to prove that they can.
Or they're trying to take Oklahoma City when everything goes down and everything is sad.
Oh, no.
I don't like that.
Yeah, you shut your mouth.
Dirty,
Mr.
dirty.
Thunder, the documentary on Nick Collison's final however long in a Thunder uniform, is now streamable on YouTube.
Watched it.
Did you really?
Yeah.
How was it?
It's pretty good. It's like 30 minutes long. Not too much. But it was really nice. Like it was cool because I thought it was neat because they like interviewed like the equipment guy and a couple of those people, like people that you wouldn't normally get to see. So it was nice to see like their relationship with him and
So was it just centered around him and being around him, what it was like being around him? And
yeah, they just kind of talked about, like being around a guy for that long, like you actually become friends and he talked about those guys too, like a little bit, and was like,
Right.
you know, it's nice to have those guys around where because they're like one of the equipment guys had been there the whole time he had, and he's like, it's nice.
Wow.
It's like whenever the basketball's not going well, he can like make a joke and it kind of lightens the mood and everything. So I don't know. It was just really neat to kind of see that side of how everything went.
Yeah, I need to watch it.
Yeah, it was good.
Definitely need to watch it. The Paul George, that's not what they're called. The PG2, his shoes.
The Paul George does.
OKC Home is what they're called. Drops on June 15th, so tomorrow. Huh?
Yeah, he's
So
staying. That's what that
he has
means.
an OKC themed shoe dropping tomorrow. That's interesting.
Yep.
It seems like okay. Here's what I'm gonna say. He definitely has control over this.
Yeah, he could be like, hey guys, I don't know.
Right. Let's not drop this theme. Let's just do a shoe.
Yeah,
Put some green on it.
yeah, just make them rainbow colors.
To me, this is interesting. It's interesting.
I feel like you kind of get pressured into like, okay, so we're gonna drop this, and we need a bunch of colorways already, and so naturally, it's like even if Paul George hasn't made up his mind, it's like, well, Oklahoma City's where I currently play, so might as well drop. But to call them that
think it's
colorway
interesting,
OKC
man.
Home, it is definitely. I don't want to read too much into it, but I do like the fact that they're called that. And I kind of want to get some, but I'm not going to pay that much money.
The reason I think it's interesting is because what kind of person would release an OKC
Kevin
themed
Durant.
shoe? Yes, would release an OK themed shoe and then bounce in 2 weeks later.
That's the answer, isn't it?
So make a bunch of money off OKC fans and then bounce. I don't like that. I don't. That's not good for your overall image.
it's-
Not only for Paul George, but for Nike.
So didn't Kevin Durant have an Oklahoma City colorway that came out right before he left?
I don't
Probably.
know. He
I-
probably did.
He
I
would.
thought that happened too. Maybe I'm just making that up, but like I'm
The-
so jaded.
There is a difference there, though, because most people thought Kevin Durant was staying.
Yeah.
And so,
How? Okay, so
I mean, I think Kevin
take it-
Durant even thought he was staying.
Take it this way: what if he had released the purple and gold shoe? He gone.
Yes. Right.
Like he's absolutely gone.
Right.
And he didn't do
Like
that.
but like that's actually what entered my mind. It's like in what next week a Lakers home.
Oh,
We're like, what?
what are you doing?
But if he did, people would buy the hell out of the Lakers.
I will say
shoe.
also he.
That's what's bringing me back here to think it's interesting because say he did drop a purple and gold shoe.
Ugh.
Say he did. We'd all be like, he's gone. Lakers fans would buy it. It would
All
sell
of them.
way better than this OKC shoe.
Oh, so much.
No doubt about it.
So much.
But he's not doing that.
Correct. And also
Nike's
at
not
his-
doing that.
At his little game at the game festival or whatever that was in Texas,
Mm-hmm.
he had a booth set up there that was like I don't remember what it was called. I don't really remember much about it.
Kiosk?
I do know that he had a little logo
E3?
of his jersey.
E3.
It wasn't E3.
Oh.
He had a little logo of his jersey,
Well.
and it was Thunder jersey looking. It was white and blue and orange. So, it's dropping all these hints.
All right. Hey, man. I think we're all rooting for it, right?
Yeah. I'm
Special
trying to
thi-
get you that tattoo. That's the only reason
I
I want it.
want to get the tattoo.
Yeah,
I
I
want
know.
to, which we have to.
I
guys,
still want to give you the tattoo,
It
like
has
personally.
no, that's not happening. It has to be a cool tattoo. You guys have to be cool with me having at least a cool one. Like I have to be okay with
I
it.
can't believe we haven't decided what it's going to be yet. That's
I'll decide. It's just gonna be a dragon. I have nothing to do with it.
get a neck tat.
Special thanks to Chris Stone for joining us. Like we said before, you can find his work over at Sporting News, the Step Back, which is a part of Fansided's network. You can find him on Twitter at @CStoneHoops. The guy really does a lot of good work as far as the draft. You heard him today. He knows a lot about these guys, a lot more than we know. So go give him a follow if you haven't already. And thank you guys for the Twitter questions that we weren't able to get to. We'll get to them next week. So thank you for listening. Follow us on Twitter at OKC Thunderhead. Subscribe on YouTube. You can catch all of our podcasts live or on demand. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, anywhere else that podcasts are found. We are there. OKCThunderheads.com has all of your Thunder needs. We will be back next week. Sans me. I will be gone. You guys going to be able to handle this?
I hope so.
Nope.
I just want to be able to trust you guys, but I'm not there yet.
Nope.
Still not there.
That doesn't help when you say no.
Nope.
We've done it a couple times.
What sucks is like last year, I also was gone during this exact same time,
Yeah.
and it was the draft recap. But at least the Thunder had a first-round pick
Yeah,
that you guys
this
could
year
kind
it's
of
just
talk
like,
about.
Well,
Nothing. Nothing. To
got-
talk. Well, maybe something will happen.
Maybe have
it
a
could.
different birthday.
Wasn't it? It was the year they traded for Oladipo. They didn't have a a first. They didn't have a pick. I don't.
Yeah,
think. And
that's
they,
right.
And
they turned it all into
they,
Vic. I was like,
were
how?
the biggest story in the draft. All right, guys. We'll be
Well-
back next week. Like I said, sans me. Till then, as always, Thunder up.
I have to turn this way now.
Yeah, it's. A little
I don't like
backward.
this as much.